previous two videos that were part 1 and 2 for a beginner entry-level yogi. So if you haven't watched those yet, I encourage you to go back, watch those first 2 videos first, and this would be kind of the third part to that series. So we'll continue to build on our Sun Salutation A, our Warrior 1 and Warrior 2, and the variations of those, as well as introducing some new poses. Okay, let's go ahead and begin in traditional corpse pose. So if you remember Shavasana, which is corpse pose, laying flat on our back, we often refer to Shavasana as how we end class, but Shavasana as the asana itself is just simply laying nice and flat on your back. So we'll begin there. Let's go ahead and start to focus on our breath. As we focus on that breathing pattern and as we lay in this corpse position, let's intentionally lengthen out our inhalations and exhalations. To do that very specifically, we can practice 7-11 breathing. For 7-11 breathing, as we inhale, we're going to count to 7 in our mind. And following the 7 inhalation, we're going to exhalation for 11 counts. Let's repeat that process, counting to 7 on our inhale. And exhaling to the count of 11. Beautiful job. Returning to our normal inhalation and exhalation. Let's bring our knees to our chest. Beginning that stretch, double kneaded chest stretch, taking those knees maybe out a little wider, letting those hips open just slightly. I'm going to extend my left leg out, let my right leg come across. A nice hip twist here, keeping this right hand out in T position. Bring it back to center. Double kneaded chest stretch once again. On the exhale, bringing that leg across. Hip stretch or rotation on this opposite side. Good work, everybody. Let's bring it back to center. I'm going to go ahead, bring my knees so that they're bent, feet flat on the mat. Roll to my side, push that ground away till I'm facing the front of my mat. Let's begin in our standing position from a forward fold. And I want to just let those hands kind of swing side to side. Good. Pausing back at our center. Inhale, flat back, just like we would as we begin our Sun Salutation A. On our exhale, bring those hands down to the mat, stepping or hopping back, lowering to that mat, and lifting into our first back bend. Remember, shoulders stay down, chest rises, keeping the legs on the mat if you're taking Cobra, or lifting the legs from the mat if we're taking Upward Dog. Releasing back, pushing that ground away, lifting those hips high, taking our first down dog. Walking that down dog out, and then doing kind of a mental check of our body once we settle into our down dog, making sure our posture alignment is good. Belly is pulled into our spine. Arms are long, ears are aligned with our upper arms. Heels are working towards the mat as our hips are lifting upwards. Good work. Now let's transition back to that high plank. That's our push-up position where our hips stay low and our shoulders are over our hands. I'm gonna bring my right leg up to meet my hands, or as close to my hands as I can get them. This takes us, I believe we've already covered it once before in previous videos, runner's stretch. Notice how that back leg is long. Hips are not up in the air here. We're really lunging forward. So we still have that nice straight line from our head down to our heel. We're going to enter a low lunge. Low lunges allow that back knee to drop, back foot to rest, and we slowly lift onto that back knee. Now I always have people who first enter this pose, pausing here, who kind of like it's uncomfortable on their knee. Oftentimes this is because if we're extremely tight, especially in this front hip flexor, we can't really lean very far forward, okay? If we can't lean very far forward, we end up sitting with a lot of weight on top of the bone in our knee, our patella. So if that's the case, you can have a few options. If you have a blanket at home or the towel, you can fold that, place it under your knee. You're also welcome, even though this allows or requires a little more adjustment. See how I kind of folded my mat over? I can get that knee placed on a little more padding and then re-step into my lunge. Again, over time, the farther forward you feel comfortable lunging, the more you're gonna actually roll weight a little farther to the front and off of that patella bone. So it shouldn't be as challenging of a posture or as uncomfortable where you need props to adjust for it. But let's once again return to that low lunge. So let's lift those hands up like we would in Warrior One. Good. And now we're gonna revolve this pose. To revolve the pose, hands are up. I'm gonna take this side, reach it forward, right side's gonna go back. So I'm facing like across my body here. Good, bring it back upright. Let's go opposite direction. So now I'm opening with my hip, back up, and across. Good, back up, and across. Good. Once we come back up for the third and final time, let's release the hands down to the mat. So what I'm doing here, I'm taking both my hands, placing them on the inside of my foot. This is lizard pose. This is often a pose that we may use props for. So for example, if that ground feels really far away, you can place a block under those hands so that we don't have to lean quite as far forward. As we hold that lizard pose, we're also gonna open the hip into open lizard. So I'm gonna take right hand onto that knee, and I'm gonna open up. Make sure you guys can see. Good. Now, from open lizard, we can even kind of revolve. So I'm gonna turn my back to the camera as I open my chest to the right side of my mat. Good. And then I'm gonna bring it back in line. From lizard or open lizard, we can also take sleeping lizard pose. Sleeping lizard drops us down a little lower, forearms to either block or mat. And then exiting our lizard variations. Let's straighten that front leg out, put a little more weight onto that back foot, and stretch out our front leg hamstring. Holding here. Beautiful work, guys. From here, let's go ahead and return to our runner stretch. Now, as I lift that knee, I can step back. I can lower my knees to the mat, adjust and flatten the mat if I need to, or step back directly into down dog. From this down dog, if you'd like to take a vinyasa, go ahead and do so. Let's move through our lizard sequence on our opposite side. Coming back to high plank, I'm going to bring that left foot forward, planting that foot, taking that runner stretch with that nice high long back leg first before I intentionally drop that knee down, sit myself up into our low lunge. Let's take that revolved position, separate those hands, facing that camera, back up, opening to the right side of my mat. Let's do one more on either side. Taking my lizard pose. If you want, you can walk that foot out just a little bit so you have more room to get those hands down onto your mat. And then you're welcome to open that hip up into open lizard. Good. And then bringing that foot back in line, or knee, sorry, back in line with the foot. Dropping those forearms to the mat. Sleeping lizard. Sleeping lizard. Returning to runner's stretch, walking that foot back in line if you opened it up to the edge of your mat. Nice high back leg. Stepping back to down dog. Wonderful work, guys. Let's drop down to the knees. Hands under the shoulders, cat stretch. To cow. Cat. Exhaling cow. Good, nice neutral spine. We're going to enter a pose called bird dog. It's a balancing pose on the hands and knees. So I want us to make sure that spine is nice and flat so we don't have that back arch in the lower back. Let's extend that left leg out like we're kicking our heel to the back of the room. And we want a nice straight line from the spine all the way out to that heel, okay? I'm gonna extend now my opposite hand. Holding here. Good. Now let's bring that elbow to knee, pulling that knee into our chest, arching our back in the cat stretch, kicking it back out. And we'll do it again. Back, in, and back. Beautiful job. Bringing it back to our hands and knees. Let's get the weight off of our hands briefly by sitting back in child's pose. Bringing those hands either out in front or alongside of us, whatever you feel comfortable doing. 3 breaths here. Wonderful job. Following that 3rd exhalation, let's sit ourselves back up, hands and knees. Knees underneath the hips, shoulders over the wrists. We're going to extend the opposite leg out. Again, make sure that spine is flat, leg is in line with that lower back. Opposite arm extends, holding, but still breathing through this bird dog hold. On our inhale, bring that knee to elbow. Exhale, extend. Knee to elbow. Extend. One final time. Good work. Let's even those legs. Hands and knees out. Once again, returning to down dog. Good work, guys. One final breath here in down dog. Following that exhalation, eyes looking up to the hands, stepping or hopping both feet forward, forward fold. Inhale, big reach up. Exhale, hands to heart center, Tadasana. So we're going to move into a variation of Sun Salutation B. I don't want to be cut off a little bit, guys, sorry. We're going to move into a variation of Sun Salutation B from here, starting at the front of our mat in Tadasana. Good. Okay. Let's go ahead, extend our hands up into the air. Feet are together. We're going to take our hips, we're going to push them back as if we're sitting in an imaginary chair. Arms go up. Good. Holding here. Beautiful. Let's come back to Tadasana. Lengthen out. Let's do chair again. Only keep hands at heart center. Inhale, sit. Exhale, hold. Good. Inhale, rise. We'll do it one more time. Exhale, sit. Inhale. On the exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, we're going to step back just with one foot. Right leg goes back, lifting up, warrior one. Warrior two. Reverse warrior. Exhale back, warrior two. Inhale, squaring off, warrior one. Exhale, stepping forward, chair pose. Inhale, big reach up. Exhale, flowing down. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, stepping back opposite side. Left leg goes back, warrior one. Inhaling and then exhaling, warrior two. Good. Inhale, reverse warrior. Exhale, back to warrior two. Inhale, warrior one. And exhale, stepping forward, chair pose. Beautiful, big reach up. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. And exhale, stepping or hopping back. Lowering down, inhaling into our back bend of our vinyasa. Exhaling, down dog. Good work, guys. Now, let's introduce three-legged dog, lifting our left leg, or our right leg, sorry, nice and high, swinging that leg forward. From here, we're going to lay this leg across our mat. This takes us to a pose called pigeon pose. This is definitely a more intense hip stretch, but for many people it's needed, like severely needed, and so they feel really good afterwards. So it's kind of a favorite among a lot of students. So if you're tight and you have your block, see right here I'm showing that if I enter pigeon pose and my hips are tight, you can kind of see daylight under my hips, right through here. because I can't, or if you're tight, you may not be able to, for example, sit those hips all the way down to the mat. You might be kind of up here. So I always tell people, bring the ground closer to your hips by setting that block right underneath. And then you can allow weight to sink into that hip, keeping those hips square and forward in our pigeon pose. Good. Let's take our upright pigeon pose, which we're in now, and walk those hands forward. Again, my block's a little out of reach. I'm gonna pause and reach for it, okay? You guys stay in the pose. Good. Because say I have, this is where two blocks come in handy. Say I have one block under my hips. I want to walk those hands forward, but that ground feels very far away. I can bring a block, say, under my forehead, so I can get a nice, restful recovery here while holding my pigeon pose. So I want you guys in this posture to be very intentional about releasing any tension in the head, in the neck, in the hips, in the legs. Really breathe and relax into this posture. The muscles we're stretching here in the hips are pretty stubborn, meaning they don't like to release the tension they hold quickly. So this pose, more than probably any other, we're required to really hold on to and settle into. Take one more breath in this sleeping pigeon posture. And then following that exhale, we can begin the transition. So if you're using that block, setting it aside, walking those hands out from underneath us. If you have a block under the hip, setting that aside. Hands underneath us by our knee, pushing that ground away on the back leg, stepping back. Down dog. Good work, guys. So let's take that same posture on our opposite leg. Because for example, right now, maybe one hip feels really stretched out, the other hip still kind of feels tight, and you can feel those differences in your down dog. So let's get that left leg high. Let's bring that foot forward. Lay it across that mat and settle in. Upright pigeon pose first. Notice the weight is light on my fingers here because I'm working to sink that weight down the center of gravity, down my tailbone. And then, and only then, that is really synced down, you can start to walk those hands forward. So again, if you have a little more flexibility, you don't need to use those blocks, you can really walk those hands all the way forward, bringing that forehead to the mat. And remembering that these muscles can be stubborn, we're going to prepare to sit and relax here for several breaths. Wonderful work, guys. Let's start to push that ground away. Sit ourselves upright, exiting from sleeping pigeon and then exiting from full pigeon. Stepping back to down dog. Wonderful work, guys. Let's go ahead, release to our hands and knees. I want to sit back. We're going to take half hero, but with one leg extended. So if you remember, I had said in previous videos, half hero is usually sitting on your heels or opening those feet up, getting those hips all the way to the mat. I know knees can be pretty tight and that can be challenging. So that's why if we extend one leg and readjust, half hero single leg can be a lot easier for most people because it allows you to get maybe a little more openness in this knee. Now, all I want to do here is I want to reach and do a forward fold first. This is where I don't have my strap out today, I'm sorry. But if you have a towel or a strap, you're welcome to use that to loop over that foot, or you can just reach forward if you're able to grab that toe with that hand and pull that body towards that leg. Notice again, I'm still hinging at the hip, so I'm not rounding like this to reach for that foot. I'm straightening that body up, leaning forward with that spine straight, and then reaching for that leg. Good. And then as I sit myself up, I just want to get a little rotation. So when I say rotation, think about having this foot, the toe pulled back, pointing up to the ceiling. I want to try to kind of like rotate that toe inward and then outward. So I'm just going to kind of rotate around and around, around and around, around and around. And what's nice is we can do that with both legs. So if I unfold, extend out, so I'm in kind of like a V shape, I can twist and twist. Notice how my feet are rotating inward and outward. That's what I want, okay? Because that rotation is happening not just at the feet, but all the way up to the hip as well, okay? One more time, let's do that same thing on our opposite side. So I'm gonna pull, left leg in line, bend that right knee, hinge at that hip, reach forward. And then allow once again for that rotation. Rotate inward and outward. Inward and outward. Good work, guys. One more time with that knee bent. And then let's straighten that leg out. Nice V shape. Rotate inward or outward and across. Across and across. Good work, guys. One final stretch. Let's come back to center. Open those legs nice and wide. And I just want to see how we can do kind of reaching down the center. This is a challenging stretch. I don't want you guys to really feel discouraged if you can't reach very far forward. But I just want to get a little reach without like grabbing or trying to anchor our toes. I just want to see kind of where we're at. Good. Okay, so my other two beginner classes accidentally cut off during Shavasana, so hopefully this one will hold and continue recording throughout Shavasana. Let's go ahead, lay back on her back. Knees can be bent, or we can take traditional corpse pose. As you settle into Shavasana, remember Shavasana at the end of our yoga session is meant to be a relaxing time where we still both the body and the mind. So we want to make sure we don't let our thoughts kind of wander away from us to like the future or to what happened earlier in the day for us. We want to stay in the present moment. If that's difficult to stay in the present moment, you can help your mind stay focused on the here and the now by returning to that 7-11 breathing. Because if we're counting, we're having to focus on that counting and focus on that breath. So you're welcome to return to that breath exercise, or you can just stay still and quiet for a few minutes. So if you've stayed with me throughout the Shavasana, we want to then transition from the stillness that is Shavasana to a little bit of movement. So maybe just with the fingers and the toes first, then we can start kind of moving the rest of the limbs, the arms, the legs, the feet, the ankles. And I always love to then bring that movement back to our center by kind of doing like a big reach overhead and adding a big inhalation. And then with our exhalation, we can transition from our backs, if that's where we were resting for Shavasana, into an upright seated position. So if you remember, we had our seated cross-legged pose, which is Sukhasana, or easy pose. Palms can come to an open and upright hand mudra. Taking a deep breath in and out here. Imagining as we inhale and exhale in the seated position, we're inhaling that stillness, that peace, that relaxation that we've created. We're holding that inward and keeping that with us, and then we're exhaling any remaining stress or tension. And then following that inhalation and exhalation, we can open those eyes up. I like to end class, especially if we hold that entire Shavasana together as a class, bringing our hands to heart center. Again, mudras are always important. We're always signaling to our bodies and our minds with our hand position. So as we bring our hands to heart center, we're connecting not only that peace and stillness within our body, but also to our emotions. I always like to end saying, the light in me honors and sees or respects the light that is in you, because that parting is signifying or recognizing that even if we are different genders, races, nationalities, colors of skin, whatever is different about us, what is on the inside, our spirit or our light or our energy is all the same. So we recognize that in each and every one of us. I think that's very important, and that's a very important concept in yoga. So with that, namaste. Thank you for joining me today. Have a wonderful rest of your week.